My daughter's 56-year-old teacher used my credit card to book a motel for them. When I knocked on the door confronting them, he told me, "She wants me." Yeah, buddy, so does the police. My daughter was every father's dream. Up until the age of 16, she had no interest in dating. She never even had a crush from those boy bands Big Time Rush or One Root. Honestly, most men are so horrible that I would have been more than happy for her to move in and live happily ever after with her girl best friend, and maybe a few cats or something. But then came the day every parent dreads. She came home and I noticed she was a lot more zoned out than usual, but not in a teenage depression sort of way. Her cheeks were flushed and there was a spark in her eye. My paternalistic instinct kicked into overdrive. I knew it was a boy, but I also knew something else. By mentioning the B word, she would instantly go into teenage mode and completely ignore me. So I pretended to not notice, and she bought it. Because every day she made it more and more obvious. She was putting 10 times more effort into her outfits, spending more money on makeup, smiling at her phone. And I know what I said before, but regardless, I was happy for her. And one day, my dream finally came true. Well, kinda. Because she asked me for boy advice. It made me cringe inside that my baby girl was growing up. But at the same time, I was glad she wanted me to be a part of her new grown-up life. "Hey Dad, how do you know if a boy likes you?" she asked innocently. "Honey, most men are idiots. They are simply incapable of hiding their emotions. So if you're unsure, take that as your sign that he doesn't." "I'm not unsure, I was just asking." I sighed and stayed silent. The usual procedure for when my daughter gets possessed by the evil demon also known as teenage hormones. A few minutes later, she started smiling again, and the tension in the room automatically cleared. The feeling can only be compared to a sunrise on a summer's day. Oh, the joys of being a father. Over the next few days, I knew things were progressing between her and the mystery boy, because she was coming home later, 6 p.m. instead of 4, with no plausible explanation. I was going to let her come to me, but then she came home with a purple mark on her neck, wearing a skirt that shouldn't have even passed the school dress code. She looked down at the ground, like she knew what was coming next. "Honey, who is this boy you're seeing?" "I don't want to talk about it," she pouted, and I guess she saw the look of worry on my face, because that's when she continued. "Dad, he treats me well. He buys me nice things, makes me feel special, isn't married. I mean in a relationship. He isn't in a relationship and I think he loves me." I raised an eyebrow. "Married? What the F?" She went super red before walking into her bedroom and slamming the door shut. I rested my chin on my hand. Something wasn't right. I know 16-year-old boys, and I know they're broke as heck. Plus, my daughter usually prides herself on never making slip-ups while she talks. An awful gut feeling washed over me. I immediately shot up and walked over to the family iPad. You see, I noticed years ago that its camera roll was synced up to my daughter's. Obviously, I never told her this. Usually, when I click on it, I just see dozens of screenshots from Instagram or Snapchat messages involving trivial drama with her friend group, or the occasional flower crown selfie. But this time I saw something much darker, because sitting right there in the recent photos was her and her boyfriend. She was sitting on his lap. This would have been fine, except I recognized his face. It was Mr. Dalton, her English teacher. Suddenly, it all made sense. The extra smiles in the parent-teacher conferences, his constant praise of my daughter. In the parent group chat, they were recently talking about how we should get him a gift to celebrate his oncoming retirement. Bile rose in my throat. I wanted to grab her phone, find his address, and beat his A until his brain was minced meat on the sidewalk. But I knew this was a sensitive situation, and I didn't want my daughter to never trust me again. So instead, I walked to her bedroom and knocked on the door. When she said I could come in, I gently entered and sat on the other side of the bed. I was ready to take full advantage of her. "Darling, I just want you to know I support you no matter what. I hope you and your boyfriend are happy together, and let him know that I wish all the best for him." Her face lit up, just as planned. "Thank you, Dad. You're the best." She then gave me a huge hug and promised me she'd tell her boyfriend. As soon as I left her bedroom and shut the door, I almost collapsed. I was so disgusted, and putting on this front was culling me, but I knew it had to be done. And like clockwork, the next day, Mr. Dalton texted me. His message was very warm. "Good afternoon, sir. Just wanted to let you know Ava has been performing brilliantly in class this week, and I wanted to send you my utmost respect for how you raised her." We texted for a while, and I asked if he wanted to meet for dinner, and that sick scumbag agreed, not knowing it would be his last meal. I suggested Marcello's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. But before Friday arrived, I realized I needed help. This wasn't something I could handle alone, not if I wanted to protect Ava properly. My original plan of confronting him alone was too risky. What if I lost control? What if I ended up in jail, leaving Ava completely vulnerable? The school counselor, Melissa Winters, had always impressed me with her no-nonsense approach. She had a reputation for being fiercely protective of students while maintaining professional boundaries. Her office was tucked away in the east wing of the school, far from the English department. I arrived 15 minutes early for our appointment, rehearsing what I'd say while watching parents and students filter out of the building. When the hallway emptied, I slipped inside. The office was smaller than I expected, walls lined with degrees and colorful posters about mental health and resilience. "Mark, come in," Melissa said, closing the door behind me. Her office was warm, filled with plants and motivational posters about resilience and growth. "What's going on?" Her voice was calm but direct. her eyes sharp behind tortoiseshell glasses. I inhaled deeply, the weight of my discovery making it hard to breathe. This stays between us for now? My voice sounded strange to my own ears. She nodded, her expression turning serious. Of course. I pulled out my phone and placed it on her desk. I need you to listen to something. All of it. I played the recording I'd made of my conversation with Ava about her boyfriend, followed by my text exchanges with Dalton. I'd spent the previous night compiling everything, organizing the evidence chronologically. For the next 45 minutes, Melissa sat perfectly still, her face growing increasingly pale. When it finally ended, she looked up at me with horror in her eyes. How long has this been happening? She whispered. A few months, I think. Maybe longer. I ran my hands through my hair. I can't go straight to the police. Ava would never forgive me, and Dalton's too smart. He'd twist everything. Melissa nodded slowly. You're right to be cautious. Men like Dalton, they're manipulative. They plan escape routes. We need to build a case carefully, one that protects Ava above all else. What do we do? I leaned forward, desperate for direction. First, we document everything. Dates, times, messages. She leaned forward. And Mark? This has to be handled delicately. If Dalton suspects anything, he could destroy evidence or worse, convince Ava to run away with him. The thought made my blood run cold. I imagined Ava disappearing, leaving only a note behind. I'll do whatever it takes. Let me make some discreet inquiries, she said. There might be other students. She wrote something in her notebook. I hadn't even considered that possibility. The idea that Ava might be one of many made me feel simultaneously relieved. She wasn't singled out, and horrified. How many lives had this man damaged? You think there are others? Predators rarely stop at one victim. She wrote something in her notebook. Give me a week. Don't confront him. Act normal. That dinner you planned, keep it, but record everything. She tore a page from her notebook and slid it across the desk. A list of apps that could discreetly record conversations. Acting normal proved nearly impossible. Every night, Ava texted constantly, giggling at her phone. Every sound made me jump. Every time she left the house, I imagined the worst. 3 days after my meeting with Melissa, I noticed Ava's behavior shifting. She seemed more secretive, defensive. Her bedroom door stayed locked more often. She started taking her phone into the bathroom during showers, something she'd never done before. That night, I checked the synced photos again. My heart stopped. New pictures showed Ava in what looked like a hotel room, sitting on a bed. Nothing explicit, but clearly not a classroom. The generic artwork on the wall, the standardized lamp on the nightstand, unmistakably a hotel. She was smiling at the camera, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Too mature, too expensive. I downloaded them immediately, adding them to my growing file. The images burned into my retinas, keeping me awake long into the night. The next morning, I received a text from Melissa. Need to talk. Found something. The message arrived as I was pouring coffee, causing me to spill hot liquid across the counter. I met her during my lunch break at a coffee shop 3 miles from the school. Melissa was already there, a manila folder on the table beside her untouched latte. I've been reviewing attendance records, she said quietly, sliding a folder toward me. The paper inside was a printout of Ava's attendance record, with certain periods highlighted in yellow. Ava has missed her last period every Friday for the past 2 months. Dalton's planning period, I muttered, the pieces falling into place. She nodded. And there's more. 3 years ago, there was an incident with another student. Nothing was proven, but the girl transferred schools suddenly. She pulled out another paper, an email exchange between administrators discussing a situation that had been handled discreetly. Why wasn't he fired? My voice rose slightly. The family moved away. No formal complaint was filed. She sipped her coffee. But I found the girl's best friend. She's a senior now. She remembers things. Hope flickered in my chest. Will she talk? Not yet. She's scared. Melissa checked her watch. Mark, we need more. Something concrete. That night, I slipped a small voice-activated recorder into the front pocket of Ava's backpack while she showered. The guilt was overwhelming, but I kept thinking of those hotel room photos. The next day was Friday, the day of my planned dinner with Dalton. I called in sick to work and waited until Ava came home at 6:30 p.m. She breezed through the door, cheeks flushed, hair slightly disheveled. Dad, I thought you had that dinner thing tonight. She dropped her backpack by the door. Canceled, I said, trying to sound casual. Wasn't feeling well. I pretended to cough for effect. Oh, was that relief in her voice? Well, I'm going to shower and then study in my room. As soon as she went to her room, I retrieved the recorder from her bag and locked myself in my home office. My hands trembled as I connected it to my computer, downloading the audio files. The first few were mundane, classroom discussions, hallway chatter. Then Dalton's voice came through clearly. You know I'd never hurt you, right? People wouldn't understand what we have. They'd try to keep us apart. His tone was soft, persuasive, with an underlying urgency that made my skin crawl. My dad likes you, Ava replied, her voice carrying that same dreamy quality I'd noticed weeks ago. A chuckle. Your father sees what I want him to see. Men like us understand each other. What do you mean? Confusion tinged her question. Nothing, sweetheart. Just that your father and I are both men of the world. Now, did you finish that college application essay? Berkeley would be perfect for you. Close enough for us to see each other regularly. The calculated manipulation was unmistakable. My hands shook as I continued listening. For an hour, Dalton alternated between discussing literature and making subtle comments about their special connection. He quoted poetry to her, Neruda and Byron, twisting beautiful words into grooming tools. I got you something, his voice said near the end of the recording. Open it. There was rustling, the sound of paper being unwrapped. Ava gasped. It's beautiful, but it looks expensive. Nothing's too expensive for you. Just don't wear it around your father yet. Our little secret. I stopped the recording, feeling sick. He was buying her jewelry now, marking his territory. I copied the files to a secure drive, then texted Melissa. Got audio, clear evidence of grooming. I texted Dalton to cancel our dinner, claiming a work emergency. I couldn't trust myself to sit across from him without doing something I'd regret. That weekend, Ava grew increasingly moody. Sunday night, I heard her crying, but when I knocked, she told me to go away. Monday morning, Melissa texted again. Principal's office, 4 p.m. Bring everything. The message sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. This was it, the moment we'd start the official process of stopping Dalton. I spent the day organizing all my evidence, the recordings, photos, attendance records. I created a timeline, noting every suspicious interaction, every unexplained absence. At 3:30, I headed to the school. The parking lot was half empty, most students already gone for the day. I was so focused I almost didn't notice Ava standing by the main entrance, arguing with a girl I recognized as Skylar Williams, her lab partner. You don't know what you're talking about, Ava hissed, her face flushed with anger. I know exactly what I'm talking about, Skylar replied. He did the same thing to my cousin before she transferred. Ask her about the bracelet he gave her. She reached for Ava's wrist, where I could now see a silver bracelet glinting in the afternoon sun. My heart stopped. I ducked behind a car, watching as Ava stormed off toward the English wing. Her shoulders were hunched, head down as she pushed through the double doors. This was bad. If she confronted Dalton now, everything could fall apart. I texted Melissa. Emergency. Ava heading to Dalton's room. Might confront him. Her response was immediate. On my way. Stall her if you can. I rushed into the building, trying to look casual. When I turned the corner to the English department, I saw Ava disappearing into Dalton's classroom. Through the small window in the door, I could see them arguing. Dalton's face was tight with anger, his usual composed demeanor cracking. He grabbed Ava's arm, and something in me snapped. I burst through the door. Take your hands off my daughter. They both froze. Dalton recovered first, releasing Ava and stepping back with a practiced smile. Mark, what a surprise. Ava and I were just discussing her essay. Dad, what are you doing here? Ava looked mortified, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. I came to see Principal Harrison, I said, never taking my eyes off Dalton. Ava, we need to go. No, she stepped away from me. You don't understand. Skylar's saying horrible things about Mr. Dalton. Lies. Dalton's smile never wavered, but his eyes hardened. Teenage gossip, I'm afraid. Happens to many teachers. Ava, please, I said, reaching for her hand. We need to talk. Privately. There's nothing to talk about. Her voice rose. You said you supported us. Perhaps this isn't the best time. Dalton interjected smoothly. Ava, why don't you head home? Your father and I can discuss this like adults. Before I could respond, Melissa appeared in the doorway with Principal Harrison behind her. Harrison was a tall man with a military bearing, his expression grave. Mr. Dalton, Harrison said, his voice stern. My office. Now. Dalton's facade cracked slightly. What's this about? A serious matter requiring immediate attention, Harrison replied. Ms. Winters, please escort Ava to your office. I'm not going anywhere, Ava shouted, tears streaming down her face. Dad, what did you do? What I had to do to protect you, my voice caught. I don't need protection from him, she turned to Dalton. Tell them it's real. Dalton's expression changed, calculating. Ava, calm down. This is clearly a misunderstanding. Mr. Jenkins, Harrison said quietly, perhaps you should join your daughter and Ms. Winters. I nodded, watching as 2 security guards appeared behind Harrison. Dalton noticed them too, his confident smile faltering. This is ridiculous, he said. Based on what? The word of a jealous teenager? We have evidence, Harrison replied. Substantial evidence. He nodded to the security guards who moved closer to Dalton. The next hour was the hardest of my life. In Melissa's office, Ava alternated between screaming at me and sobbing uncontrollably. She called me a liar, a traitor, swore she'd never forgive me. He loves me, she cried. You ruined everything. Melissa tried to intervene. Ava, I know this is difficult, but there are things you don't understand. What don't I understand? That my dad pretended to support me while going behind my back? That Mr. Dalton has done this before, Melissa said gently. That stopped Ava cold. What? 3 years ago with another student. She transferred schools afterward. You're lying, Ava whispered, but I could see doubt creeping into her eyes. Skylar's cousin, I said quietly. That's who she was talking about, wasn't it? Ava stared at the floor. She said he gave her a bracelet too. My heart sank. What bracelet, Ava? Slowly, she pulled up her sleeve, revealing a silver bracelet with a small sapphire charm. He said it matched my eyes. Melissa made a note. May I see it? As Ava reluctantly removed the bracelet, Harrison entered the office, his face grim. Mr. Dalton has been escorted off campus and placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The board has been notified, as has our legal team. What about the police? I asked. Harrison sighed. That's complicated. Without Ava's cooperation, he glanced at my daughter. I'm not talking to the police, Ava interjected. This is insane. You're all treating me like a child. You are a child, I said firmly. You're 16. I'm old enough to know what I want. Harrison suggested we all take the night to cool down. As we left the school, Ava walked 10 paces ahead of me, refusing to acknowledge my existence. That night, she locked herself in her room. I sat outside her door, listening to her cry until she fell asleep around midnight. The next morning, Ava's phone buzzed repeatedly. When she didn't emerge for breakfast, I checked her room and found it empty, window open. My heart nearly stopped. The curtains fluttered in the morning breeze. breeze, a hastily scrawled note on her pillow. You can't stop us. I called her phone, straight to voicemail. I texted Melissa in a panic. Ava's gone. Think she's with Dalton. Her response was immediate. Calling Harrison. Check credit cards for hotel charges. I logged into my bank account and saw it. A charge from the Bayview Inn on the edge of town, just 20 minutes earlier. I remembered Ava once mentioning she'd used my credit card to order pizza for them. He must have saved the information. I grabbed my keys and raced to the hotel, calling the police on the way. The dispatcher promised to send officers, but warned it might take time. There had been a major accident on the highway. When I arrived, I spotted Dalton's car in the parking lot, a silver Audi, room 118, according to the charge. Without thinking, I ran to the door and pounded on it. Ava, open up! Silence, then shuffling. Dalton's voice came through the door. She doesn't want to see you. Let me talk to her, I shouted. Dad, go away, Ava called, her voice shaking. We're leaving. You can't stop us. Ava, please, I begged. Just talk to me for 5 minutes. Then if you still want to go, I won't stop you. It was a lie, but I needed to get inside that room. More silence. Finally, the door cracked open. Dalton stood there, trying to look composed but clearly nervous. 5 minutes, he said. Then we're leaving. I pushed past him into the room. Ava sat on the bed, a small suitcase beside her. Her eyes were red and puffy. The room smelled of cheap air freshener and desperation. Honey, please don't do this, I said softly. You don't understand, she replied. We love each other. If he loves you, why is he making you run away? Why not wait until you're 18? Because people like you won't let us be together. I inhaled slowly. Ava, there's something you need to know. Something I found out yesterday. Dalton stepped forward. We don't have time for this. Skylar's cousin wasn't the first, I continued, ignoring him. Melissa found 2 other cases at his previous school. Same pattern, same bracelet. Ava's eyes widened. What? He's lying, Dalton said quickly. They're all lying. The bracelet has his initials engraved on the clasp, I said. Check it. Ava's hand went to her wrist, but the bracelet wasn't there. She looked at Dalton. Where's my bracelet? In your bag, he said dismissively. We need to go. I want to see it. She stood up, moving toward her suitcase. Later, the bus leaves in 30 minutes. Something changed in Ava's expression. You said we were driving to your cousin's cabin, Dalton faltered. We discussed both options. No, we didn't. She stood up slowly. You said your cousin has a cabin in Oregon where we could stay until things blew over. Plans change, he snapped, his mask slipping. Now grab your bag. I stepped between them. She's not going anywhere with you. Dalton's face darkened. This doesn't concern you anymore. Ava, tell your father you're coming with me. But Ava was staring at him, really seeing him perhaps for the first time. You lied about the cabin. It's a minor detail. What else did you lie about? She turned to me. Dad, what did you mean about other cases? Before I could answer, sirens wailed in the distance. Dalton's expression turned desperate. We need to go now, he growled, grabbing Ava's arm roughly. She winced, trying to pull away. You're hurting me. Let her go, I warned, stepping closer. Or what? He sneered. You'll stop me? She's coming with me, and you're going to let us walk out that door. I looked him straight in the eyes. The police are already here. It's over, Dalton. As if on cue, there was a sharp knock at the door. Police, open up! What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Dalton released Ava and lunged for his jacket. I saw the glint of metal and realized with horror he had a GN. Nobody moves, he shouted, pointing it at me. Ava, get your bag. We're going out the back. Ava stood frozen, her face pale with shock. You have a gun? Just for protection, he said, his voice suddenly gentle again. Come on, sweetheart. We need to go. The police knocked again, more forcefully. Open the door now. Dalton grabbed Ava's arm with his free hand. Move! Something snapped in me. I lunged forward, tackling him just as the police broke down the door. The GN went flying as we crashed to the floor. I heard Ava scream, officers shouting commands. Officers swarmed in, pulling me off him and pinning Dalton face down. One officer secured the gun, while another handcuffed Dalton. Ava stood against the wall, shaking violently. I rushed to her, wrapping my arms around her as she collapsed against me. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I thought he loved me. It's okay, I whispered, holding her tight. It's over now. You're safe. As the police led Dalton away in handcuffs, he locked eyes with me one last time. The mask was completely gone, revealing the predator beneath. Cold, calculating eyes stared back at me. At the police station, everything happened in a blur. Statements were taken, charges filed, possession of an unregistered firearm, attempted kidnapping, sexual exploitation of a minor. Ava was quiet on the drive home, staring out the window. When we arrived, she finally spoke. How did you know? About the hotel? He used my credit card, I explained. Must have gotten the information from your phone. She nodded slowly. I gave him your card number once, to order pizza. Her voice broke. I was so stupid. No, I said firmly. You weren't stupid. He was manipulative. That's what predators do. They're experts at making you trust them. That night, Ava asked if she could sleep in my room, like she used to do during thunderstorms when she was little. I made her a pallet on the floor next to my bed. As I turned out the light, her small voice came through the darkness. Dad, I don't hate you. I'm sorry I said that. I reached down and squeezed her hand. I know, sweetheart. How can I ever trust myself again? She whispered. I thought what we had was real. It will take time. I said gently, but you'll learn to trust yourself again. And until then, I'm right here. In the days that followed, the full extent of Dalton's predatory behavior came to light. 2 former students came forward with similar stories. The bracelet, it turned out, was his signature, identical to the ones he'd given his previous victims. Ava agreed to speak with a specialized counselor, though she refused to testify in court. The other evidence, the recordings, the hotel incident, the GN, was enough to ensure Dalton would face serious consequences. 2 weeks after the hotel incident, the district attorney called. They had enough evidence to proceed without Ava's testimony, but her statement would strengthen their position. The preliminary hearing is next month, the DA explained. Dalton's lawyer is already floating a plea deal. What kind of deal? I asked. 10 years? Possibility of parole after 7? We're pushing for more. That night, I broached the subject gently. We were eating dinner, pasta I'd made from scratch. The DA called today. I kept my tone casual. Ava stiffened. I don't want to testify. Nobody's asking you to, I assured her. They have enough without your statement. She relaxed slightly. Good. But, I continued carefully, if you did want to make a statement, it could help ensure he gets a longer sentence. She was quiet for a long moment. How long would he get without my statement? Maybe 10 years. Out in 7 with good behavior. Her spoon clattered against the bowl. 7 years? That's it? I'll be 23 when he gets out. The next day, Melissa texted me. Skylar's cousin Jade wants to talk to Ava. Might help. Your call. I showed Ava the message. To my surprise, she immediately said yes. We met Jade at a quiet coffee shop downtown. She was 19 now, a college sophomore with bright blue hair and kind eyes. They sat in a corner booth while I waited at the counter, close enough to watch but far enough to give them privacy. On the drive home, Ava was quiet until we hit the highway. Jade said the same things, she finally murmured, about being special, understanding him like no one else could. I kept my eyes on the road, letting her continue. He told her they'd go to Paris after she graduated. He had it all planned out. She turned to look out the window. He told me we'd go to Greece. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I'm sorry, sweetheart. No, I'm glad I know. She inhaled deeply. I want to write that statement. That night, Ava sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad, writing and crossing out lines for hours. Around midnight, she pushed the pad toward me. Can you read it? Tell me if it's okay? I sat down and began to read. Her words were raw, powerful, and heartbreakingly honest. She described how Dalton had gradually isolated her, made her feel special, while simultaneously making her doubt herself. This is more than okay, I said when I finished. This is brave. She nodded, taking the pad back. I want to read it myself, in court. I want him to hear it from me. The day before the hearing, I found her in the backyard, sitting under the old oak tree where she used to play as a child. Having second thoughts? I asked, sitting beside her. A million of them. She plucked at the grass. But I keep thinking about what you did, how you knew something was wrong and didn't ignore it, even when it would have been easier. I winced, remembering the invasion of privacy. I'm not sure I handled everything right. You protected me, she said simply. Now I need to protect myself, and maybe others too. The courthouse was intimidating, all marble and echoing hallways. Ava wore a simple blue dress and clutched her statement in trembling hands. When Ava was called to speak, she walked to the podium with her head high. Her voice shook at first, but grew stronger with each word. She didn't look at Dalton until the very end. You made me believe I was special, she said, finally meeting his gaze. But now I know the truth. You're the one who isn't special. You're just another predator who couldn't succeed with women your own age. Dalton's face remained impassive, but I saw his jaw tighten. When Ava returned to her seat, I squeezed her hand, unable to speak through the lump in my throat. The judge denied the plea deal. The case would go to trial, where Dalton would face additional charges based on evidence found on his devices. The DA was confident he'd get 20 years minimum. The trial was scheduled for 6 months later. Life began to find a new rhythm. Ava transferred to a different school for her junior year. She joined the debate team and discovered a talent for persuasive speaking that surprised us both. One evening in late October, I came home to find her researching colleges. Thinking ahead? I asked, setting down groceries. Berkeley has a good psychology program, she said casually. I froze, remembering Dalton's words on the recording about Berkeley being close enough for them to see each other. She caught my expression and shook her head. Not because of him, because I want to help people who've been through what I went through. Relief washed over me. You'd be amazing at that. I've been thinking, she continued, about starting a support group at school for people dealing with complicated relationships. That sounds like a great idea. I began unpacking groceries. She nodded, then hesitated. Dad, can I ask you something weird? Of course. How did you know? Really? You said you paid attention, but it was more than that, wasn't it? I inhaled deeply. Your photos were synced to the family iPad. Her eyes widened. You saw everything? Not everything. Just enough to know something was wrong. I expected accusations of invading her privacy. Instead, she was quiet for a long moment. Thank you for not telling me that before, she finally said. I wouldn't have understood. And now? I asked cautiously. Now I know what was at stake. She closed her laptop. I'm not mad. I'm grateful. The trial began in March. 3 weeks in, the DA called with news. Dalton had changed his plea to guilty on all counts. 25 years, she told us. No possibility of parole for at least 20. Ava was silent when I told her, then nodded once. Good. That night, I found her in the backyard again, looking up at the stars. I sat beside her without speaking. I keep thinking about who I might have become, she said softly. If this had gone on longer, if you hadn't figured it out, you would have figured it out eventually, I assured her. You're too smart not to have. Maybe. She hugged her knees to her chest. But how much damage would have been done by then? I had no answer for that. We sat in silence for several minutes. I'm going to be okay, she said, more to herself than to me. Not today or tomorrow, but eventually. I know you will. She leaned her head against my shoulder, something she hadn't done since before all this began. I'm thinking about starting a blog, anonymous of course, about recognizing the warning signs. I think that's a great idea. I'd need your help with some of it. The warning signs you noticed that I missed. Whatever you need, I promised. I'm here for all of it. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars. The road ahead would still have difficult days, but Ava was finding her way back, not to who she was before, but to someone stronger, wiser, and still fundamentally herself. A month later, she showed me the first draft of her blog post. It began, I was 16 when I thought I fell in love with a predator. This is how my father saved me, and how I learned to save myself. I read it with tears in my eyes, amazed by her courage and clarity. When I finished, she was watching me anxiously. Is it okay? Should I change anything? It's perfect, I told her. Just like you. She rolled her eyes, but smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Nobody's perfect, Dad. True, I agreed, but you're pretty close. Sometimes love isn't enough to keep our children safe, but love combined with vigilance, courage, and the willingness to act, even when it's difficult, just might be.